I am for the child who's had 7 addresses in a single year because she's in foster care, because her father abused her. And her mother couldn't believe her. She is the child I am for. I am a volunteer child advocate. I am you.
Florida residents call toll-free 866-341-1425.
Tap rooms are localized and they're geographic. The Hispanic community is much broader than one tap room. So what we decided to do was come out with a high-quality craft beer, 2 high-quality craft beers that appeal to the Hispanic taste and that we can distribute in all the Hispanic neighborhoods. Taino is a very light, refreshing beer. It's a social beer that you can drink probably for a good part of the evening, and it'll give you a nice light feeling. It's not a heavy beer, it's very airy, and it's very light. It's a 4.5 alcohol, which is low for beer. The Boricua is a 6.0. Now that's a stronger beer, and we designed it to be a little bit stronger than Heineken. Heineken is a favorite in the Hispanic community, so we have a little bit more muscle than Heineken. Boricua right now, in a very short amount of time, it's been a miracle for us because we've gotten a large range of acceptance at the retail level. We're in Publix, we're in ABC, Target is picking it up, we're in Sedano's, we're in Bravo's, 7-Elevens are picking it up because they're concentrating more on craft beer and the Hispanic market. So what we're trying to do is do a quality beer, a high quality beer, more taste, and that the Hispanic community will like. Hi, I'm Danny Ramos and welcome to this week's edition of Hispanic Speak Out. It's going to be a rather unusual production, a 30-minute video of how the United States could possibly be attacked and be possibly destroyed. This is a scenario only, but it has a lot of fact and a lot of truth to it. You be the judge.
12:18 p.m. Friday, February 26, 1993. A massive explosion occurs in the public parking garage on one of the tallest buildings in the planet, the World Trade Center in New York City. The bombing shocked America, which had seemed immune from attacks of terrorism that has plagued other parts of the world. Analysts say that this bombing opened the gates to what would later become the largest and best organized plot in American and world history. Who were the masterminds of the 1993 bombings? Did the FBI respond quickly enough? The motives, the ramifications, and the ripple effect. 16 years ago, at about 17 minutes past noon, a thunderous explosion rocked lower Manhattan. The epicenter was the parking garage beneath the World Trade Center, where a massive eruption carved out a nearly 100-foot crater, several stories deep and several more high. 6 people were killed almost instantly. Smoke and flames began filling the wound and streaming upward into the building. Those who were entrapped were soon pouring out of the building. Many were panic-stricken and covered in soot. More than 1,000 people were hurt in some way, some badly, with crushed limbs. As a small band of terrorists scurried away from the scene unnoticed, the FBI and its partners began staffing up a command center and preparing to send in a team to investigate. Their instincts told them that this was terrorism. They would be tracking Islamic fundamentalists in the city for months, and they would later learn they were tantalizingly close to encountering the planners of this attack. But hunches weren't enough. What was needed was definitive proof. The bombing of the World Trade Center has been totally eclipsed by the events of 9/11, which saw thousands killed, the collapse of both Twin Towers, and an all-out war on terror declared by the Western world. The terrorists would have it soon enough. The massive investigation that followed quickly uncovered a key bit of evidence. In the rubble, investigators uncovered a vehicle identification number on a piece of wreckage that seemed suspiciously obliterated. A search of crime records returned a match. The number belonged to a rented van reported stolen the day before the attack. An Islamic fundamentalist named Mohammed Salameh had rented the vehicle, and on March 4th, an FBI SWAT team arrested him as he tried in vain to get his $400 deposit back. One clue led to another, and authorities soon had in custody 3 more suspects: Nidal Ayad, Mahmoud Abu Halima, and Ahmed Ajaj. Authorities would also find the apartment where the bomb was built and a storage locker containing dangerous chemicals, including enough cyanide gas to wipe out a town. All 4 men were tried, convicted, and sentenced to life. The shockwave from the attack continued to reverberate. Following the unfolding connections, the task force soon uncovered a second terrorist plot to bomb a series of New York landmarks simultaneously, including the UN building, the Holland and Lincoln tunnels, and the Federal Plaza, where the FBI office in New York is housed. On June 24, 1994, FBI agents stormed a warehouse in Queens and caught several members of a terrorist cell in the act of assembling bombs. Meanwhile, the mastermind of the World Trade Center bombing was still on the run and up to no good. We would learn his name, Ramzi Youssef, within weeks after the attack, and discover he was planning more attacks, including the simultaneous bombing of a dozen US international flights. Youssef was captured in Pakistan 2 years after the attack, returned to America, and convicted along with the van driver, Ayad Ismail. A 7th plotter, Abdul Yassin, would remain at large. The site of the blast became one of the largest crime scenes in New York police history. Estimates showed property damage in excess of $500 million. The sense of fear and panic in the city was palpable. We later learned from Youssef that his Trade Center plot was far more sinister. He wanted the bomb to topple one tower, with the collapsing debris knocking down the second. The attack turned out to be something of a deadly dress rehearsal for 9/11. With the help of Youssef's uncle, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, Al-Qaeda would later return to realize Youssef's nightmarish vision. The Islamic group is believed to have links to Osama bin Laden's Al-Qaeda network, accused of carrying out the September 11th attacks. Indeed, many citizens, including law enforcement, thought of the investigation of the 1993 bombing of the World Trade Center as the case of the century. Analysts view it as a wake-up call to what would later become the deadliest terrorist attack in modern history. One of New York's main landmarks, one of the tallest buildings on the planet, would fatally change history, altering the way the world deals with terrorism and its adherents. In 1993, terrorists turned cars into deadly bombs in an effort to collapse the Twin Towers. Unsatisfied with the outcome, 8 years later they tried again. This time they turned airplanes into deadly projectiles, and it worked. Cars became deadly bombs. Airplanes became deadly rockets. What is next? And most importantly, are we ready?
Beautiful day today, sunshine throughout, low humidity, really a splendid September day. The afternoon temperature about 80 degrees, great weather for the primary election. Tonight clear and cool, low 60.
American Boston. Please listen very carefully. This is Amy Sweeney on Flight 11. We've been hijacked. 2 attendants have been stabbed.
Do you have any idea where you're headed?
No. People in coach think it's a routine emergency. We've asked for a doctor, but none's on board.
Can you tell us anything more about the hijackers?
Yes, they have knives and mace. They say they have a bomb.
Okay, how are the people who were stabbed?
One flight attendant's okay. I'm not sure. The other may not make it. Oh my God, something's wrong here!
What's happening? Amy, are you still there?
We're in rapid descent. We're all over the place.
Can you look out the window and tell us where you are?
I see water, buildings. We're flying low. We're flying very, very low. We're flying way too low. Oh my God, we're...
You don't have an elevator yet? Any elevators working?
Flames are shooting out. Smoke is pouring out.
I want you to get an engine and team up. Get an offside line. Walk to 7. Okay, I want you to go any higher than 70. Too much fun.
If you're just joining us this morning, you're in for a horrific surprise. Rescue crews are making their way to the scene, and all of this unfolding in one of the busiest places in the world, in downtown Manhattan.
Look how fast he's going.
He's going right up the Hudson River Center.
Oh my God.
That was not American Airlines.
Need somebody. I'm going to send him up. I can go cheaper.
Both towers of the World Trade Center have been hit by aircraft. Both are in flames. Both suffered explosions.
There is black smoke coming from both of the towers. It's a horrific scene here. There's debris flying through the air over the East River here into Brooklyn. What appears to be...
We're just getting word now. One of the 2 planes was hijacked after takeoff from Boston. This is
2 airplanes have crashed into the World Trade Center in an apparent terrorist attack on our country.
Let's go. Get off the corners. Let's go. Off the corners. Get off the corners, let's go! Off the corners! Let's go!
sector appears to be on
Deux
fire.
avions en l'espace de 20 minutes qui ont percuté.
A situation that started bad just gets worse and worse and worse. The World Trade Center, South Tower, which was hit by a plane and wrecked by an explosion approximately an hour ago, has totally collapsed.
What happened?
I imagine all of their bravest firefighters are probably not alive.
The scene here is just one right out of one of the movies you would see in Hollywood. People walking around with cell phones and tears, holding their heads, looking up at what's left of the World Trade Center and just shaking their heads in disbelief.
Meanwhile, confirming today that just 2 days after steering $400 million in cash to Iran in a covert payment timed to coincide with the release of American hostages, President Obama and his administration paid the Islamic Republic 3 times that amount, another $1.3 billion in interest, wiring that money directly to Iran in 3 payments. The payments trace back to the 1970s and money Iran gave the U.S. for military equipment before the hostage crisis of that era erupted. And the U.S. responded back then by freezing Iran's assets. There is much more to this story, and for that we go to Chief Washington Correspondent James Rosen at the State Department. Good evening, James.
Brett, good evening. For the first time, the State Department has provided a timeline on when it made this $1.3 billion interest payment to Iran. Following a series of explosive reports from the Wall Street Journal, the Obama administration this month has sought to rebut charges that it paid ransom for 5 Americans released from Iranian captivity back in January, even as senior U.S. officials now admit they withheld the $400 million assembled in hard foreign currency until they received word that the hostages were being set free, a linkage of the prisoner release to the payments that spokesman for the State Department had previously denied. Now, in response to a report in the New York Sun, the Obama administration has confirmed that it was just 2 days later, on January 19th, that a Treasury Department account known as the Judgment Fund was used to send Iran an additional 13 payments, each for $99,999,999.99, or roughly $100 million each, to satisfy the interest that Washington negotiated with Iran Iran. The U.S. said the total payout of $1.7 billion was significantly lower than the judgment U.S. taxpayers might have been forced to absorb if Iran prevailed in the international tribunal in which it has staked its claim to the assets frozen back in the 70s. However, the State Department today refused to provide additional information about the unusual amounts used, why hard foreign currency was used for the initial payment, or why the ledger shows a 14th payment in the amount of nearly $10.4 million.
We do make a practice of not commenting publicly on transactions, including settlement payments, due to the confidential nature of those payments and to respect the privacy of our international partners.
The chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee told Fox News last week and reiterated to us again just a few minutes ago that he will hold hearings on this subject.
We want to know who authorized this. We want to know when. We want to know the timing. And we also want to know the particulars about the cash and the payments. Why unmarked bills when other avenues were possible in terms of satisfying whatever interests the government may have had.
Now, those 13 payments of roughly $100 million each left 13 cents unaccounted for. That led Matt Lee of the Associated Press, the dean of the State Department Press Corps, to ask the department if it intended to use those 13 cents as leverage for the next round of American hostages in Iran. Brett.
Unbelievable. James Rosen at the State Department. James, thank you.
Iran plans to buy more than 100 aircraft from the French aircraft maker Airbus, and it has gained momentum as Iran's president is set to visit Paris. Iran Air Chairman and Managing Director Farhad Parvaresh said that the deal to buy 114 Airbus Group SE jets will be signed during Rouhani's trip. Parvaresh said that the purchase may include double-decker A380 Super Jumbo jet and A320 aircraft. Iran's Minister of Roads and Urban Development, Abbas Akhondi, also said that the first of the 114 aircraft are expected to be delivered before March 21. Iran is seeking to renovate its aging aviation fleet following the lifting of sanctions earlier this month. The country is also trying to attract Western companies to its huge market, which has been largely untapped in recent years due to sanctions over its nuclear program. The capital, Tehran, hosted the CAPA Iran Aviation Summit on Sunday, with 85 international companies and conglomerates attending the event. Let's talk about this with Alireza Mortazazadeh, who's the Operation Director of Caspian Airlines, who joins us in the studios. Mr. Mortazazadeh, welcome. So looking at the size of this order, obviously very telling in terms of its significance. Tell us what this exactly means for Iran as a whole and what it would do in terms of the international appeal that this is going to bring.
Announced a blockbuster deal to sell 80 commercial airplanes to Iran for nearly $17 billion. It's being touted as the biggest deal with Iran since the revolution there in 1979, only made possible by the Iran nuclear deal signed by President Obama last year. Well, the president-elect has denounced the Iran nuclear plan in the past and has yet to comment on this new Boeing deal, instead taking a second swipe at Boeing's contract for Air Force One on Fox News Sunday. More on the Boeing deal with Iran. Let's go to NBC's Ali Arouzi in Tehran. Ali, what are you hearing as it relates to this deal and this president-elect in some of his language?
Well, Tamron, the deal is very significant. It's a massive deal, as you mentioned. 80 planes to be sold to Iran over the next 10 years for almost $17 billion. And it marks the biggest commercial deal between the United States and Iran since the 1979 revolution and the storming of the U.S. Embassy. Now, until recently, the government in Iran had been complaining that they hadn't seen any tangible results from the nuclear deal. Well, it's that nuclear deal that's enabled them to buy all of these planes from Boeing, which they really needed.
And it's a really important milestone that North Korea has passed, and initially it looked like it was only coming from the Defense Intelligence Agency, and their job is to look at adversary capabilities, and in the past they've been criticized for being a little too generous in terms of ascribing capabilities to adversaries, so there was some concern among outside observers. But as you know, you and I have now gotten some new reporting to suggest that it's not only the DIA, it's the CIA and the ODNI and other agencies that share this assessment that North Korea has reached this critical milestone. They're able to miniaturize a weapon to put on an ICBM, Andrea.
We're about to show you a map that shows passenger planes flying into secondary Western cities, and then those same passenger planes will go into primary U.S. cities. Those passenger planes potentially could be carrying miniaturized nukes that were purchased or gotten from North Korea and then flown into the United States all on one day, hitting 10 major cities with miniature nuclear bombs.
And all of this unfolding in one of the busiest places in the world, in downtown Manhattan.
Oh my God.
This is a potential scenario. They have used passenger planes in the past to attack the United States. This scenario is a follow-up scenario, just like the follow-up scenario on the World Trade Center from 1993 that landed up in 2011, a second attack. The scenario is the same. It's just using the same devices, but more of them. Make no mistake, this is a real possibility. Step up to craft beer. Taino Light Lager has a crisp, refreshing Caribbean-style flavor. Boricua Craft Ale, full-bodied flavor for the true beer drinker. Stop drinking beer water. Taino Craft Light Lager and Boricua Strong Craft Ale.